Hey y'all, it's Lena to intro our podcast episode with Grace. As With It Girl gears up to attend the Vans Pipe Masters in Hawaii, we discuss a very important theme for us With It women on what it means to show up. Grace herself works for With It Girl doing social media outreach, strategic planning, and event coverage. On top of talking about Grace growing up, her move to California, and passion for photography, we discuss how she will offer a new perspective to the likes of other female photographers by showing up and making waves at Pipeline. So Grace is here with us today. For those of you listening who don't know, she is also a With It woman. She's been with It Girl for quite a while now. We've been working together. And so her and I are here today to talk a little bit about a theme that has come up a bit when us With It women or With It people are together, which is basically about what it means to show up and showing up in general. So Grace, before we kind of get into all that good stuff, I was hoping that you could tell us a bit more about just yourself and who you are. So maybe kind of just like where you grew up and then how you made your way to California eventually.
Yeah, of course. So I actually grew up far west suburbs of Chicago area. And I originally went to school upstate New York. And I had taken a summer between my sophomore and junior year to go out to California. My sister had gone out there already for school and had been living out there for a few years. So I went out there for a job to work for this designer that I really loved. And I ended up just having the best time that summer. I got thrown into the surf industry a little bit and working on films and everything. And I ended up leaving my other school, taking some time off, and I moved out to Venice Beach for a little bit and did some more traveling and eventually transferred up to UC Santa Barbara to finish up school.
Awesome. And what did you study at UC Santa Barbara? Like what drew you to your major in that topic?
Yeah, so I studied feminist studies, which I had actually never even heard of it before I went to school. Originally, I was going for architectural design and sustainable living, and I just happened to take a feminist studies course. I really fell in love with it. It was a lot of critical thinking and just kind of open discussion going back and forth in the classroom. And I became really passionate about it. And I always wanted to do something more creative. So it wasn't necessarily with my career path, but I figured it could be incorporated into anything.
Totally. And so I don't know if a lot of people know that there are a lot of workers for With It Girl or helpers for With It Girl that attend a lot of the UCs, so UCSB, UCLA, all that good stuff. So I wanted to ask you, from your start at UCSB, how did you get involved with It Girl? And since starting there, how have kind of your roles and responsibilities grown?
Yes, it was actually really funny. I had followed With a Girl on Instagram already and kind of knew of them. And I remember they popped up on my feed like the day before my new housemate Marion had moved in. And I was kind of looking at it and I was like, oh, this is a really cool magazine. Like it shares a lot of the same values as I do. And the next day when Marion moved in, she had a big With a Girl sticker on her wall. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was just looking at that. She actually works with us. So she was telling me a little bit more about the company. And at the time, I was planning on going down for Mexi Log Fest, kind of trying to convince her to come with me just for fun. And then she got a call from Beth, who had the invite from Vans and was saying, like, come on down, and mentioned that I do photography and kind of got me involved with the meetings prior to the event. And then from there, I just continued working with It Girl, and it's been great since then. Right now I'm doing more social media and outreach and kind of strategic planning and event coverage, and then photography as well.
Yeah. And you and I got to go to Huntington Beach together, which was cool with Marianne and a bunch of other girls and Beth as well. So that was a
Mhm.
very cool experience for me too, to be able, because that was the first time that we met in person. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was
Yeah,
really
it was
fun
really
to do that
great.
together and work for With It Girl.
Yeah.
Um,
Every With a Girl trip, it's a good one.
yes, I agree. So kind of hopping off of that travel for you, so Mexi Log Fest, and then we were in Huntington Beach for Vans. So something that I know about you, but maybe not the other listeners don't, is that you love to travel and you've been traveling like all this summer, which is awesome. And so yeah, so you've been able to travel with It Girl as well. And I was just curious what those experiences have been like for you, both traveling independently and with It Girl. And if you want to go into detail about like why travel is maybe valuable for you or how you got that little bug, the travel bug, I'd love to know.
Yeah. So I think the travel bug definitely comes more so from my mom. She's always been the go-getter and wanting to explore the world. And now that my sister and I are out of the house too, she's been doing a bunch of solo trips all around the world and really loving it. Um, I think for me, it's always just been really encouraged. And I think it's really valuable in the sense of just constantly opening your mind to new perspectives and experiencing just everything the world has to offer. And I feel like traveling, especially, you get the opportunity to meet so many different people and just discuss like different perspectives and outlooks on life. And I think that's really important.
Kind of based on on one of our last meetings when we were all talking and you were kind of telling us all about, I forget where it was that you were, um but it was on one of your travels and you were skateboarding with a big group of people, and it really like inspired me when you were, or just caught my attention when you were talking about the young girls that saw you skating, and how that impacted you as well. And then kind of in that same time we were talking about the idea of showing up. um for example, something that we talked about was inserting yourself in places you've been deemed other. So based on
Mhm.
kind of like that example you were talking about before when you were skating, um and just showing up in general, what does that look like for you? And that can be both in general and like your simple day-to-day life, or when it comes to traveling with It Girl, or traveling on your own. Just give a couple of options.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think that's something that I've been trying to become a little bit more aware of. Where originally I was talking with Malls, the founder, and she was talking about how where she lives, there's not really many women surfers out in the water, and she never really thought of her going out as being much of anything. She's just doing something she liked. Until one day, some of the girls would say like, "Hey, we're always watching you out there. It's really inspiring." Um, and at the same time, I was talking about with photography how I've never really paid much attention to what's going on around me or anything like that. But more recently, like I've definitely started to become more aware that I am typically one of the only female surf photographers out on the beach. And even like comments of guys walking past, they'll always say like, "Oh, like such a big lens," or like that's a pretty big lens for you. Whereas there'll be like 10 guys sitting right next to me with the same lens, if not bigger, and nobody's going up to them or anything. Um, so just kind of like becoming more aware that you are showing up, even if you don't think you are. And something as little as doing something that you love, like really can have an impact on other people. So like being out there surfing or skating or taking photos just shows to somebody like you that it can be done. And I think that's really important.
Mhm. Is there like an overarching goal that you'd hope to shine on people about, like what showing up can do when changing like social perspectives or just like a random person's perspective?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think kind of with the concept that we took down to Mexi Log Fest with us and Van Stock Tape, each person draws their own line. So we all have this unique perspective. And when you're showing up in a space that you may be deemed other or not always welcomed, you're offering that perspective to those people. And it really helps to create a more understanding world, but also see all the ways that we are connected and those similarities between us.
Mm. That's a beautiful response. My next question was, why is it so important to show up and get your foot in the door in places otherwise deemed impossible? But I feel like we kind of covered that a little bit. If you have any more um, notes you want to say about like the importance of maybe getting your foot in the door, I think like for me, it's kind of, someone has to start something. And if it's not you, then it's probably going to be someone else. But I think that the beauty of showing up is that you're putting your face out there and your identity out there. And I think, yeah, definitely people that can relate to you, in turn will want to do the same once they see your inspiration, whether that be like based on gender or race or just an interesting topic. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, definitely. Yes, I think in terms of showing up, like it's one, you're inspiring all these other people and you're kind of just paving this new path and showing that it can be done and it can be possible. But I also think if you just keep doing what you love, opportunities will come. You'll be meeting people with the same mindset, connecting with people from all over the world or in that industry. That's a great way to just continue growing from there. And in terms of showing up too, like it doesn't always have to be so much of the mindset of I have to make this huge difference, where something as simple as just going and doing what you love does make a difference. And it's important to acknowledge that and be proud of that.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And basically just on a final note, are there any lessons or ideas you'd like to share with listeners when it comes to showing up? Yeah, that's it. Just to
Um,
inspire others to maybe do the same, that you're trying to do or succeed at.
yeah, I mean, like, simply put it, just do it. It can be intimidating at times and it can be scary, but just going out there and taking that leap of faith and following what you're truly passionate about, is so important. And don't let others tell you what you can and can't do. Don't get discouraged if you're the only girl out there or you're just deemed as an other in that space. You are meant to be there if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I think in general, just showing up is extremely important. And I think with It Girl in the future, um, keeping that theme in mind is extremely important. Because I think for all of us, it's so valuable to have not just women, but all walks of life as well. Showing up where ultimately they were deemed other, as we've kind of said before. So I think it's really exciting to get this idea out there and show people how important it is to all of us working for With a Girl right now. So I thank you, Grace, so much for hopping on Zoom today and
Yeah, thank
joining
you
the
for
Talk
having
About
me.
It podcast. And yeah, I appreciate you so much showing up.
Thank you.
Of course.
Bye.
We'd love to give a special thanks to Vans and George Pedrick for extending the invitation to With It Girl and welcoming our showing up. The With It Girl team is also deeply, deeply grateful to Beth O'Rourke for all her mentoring, Super Shaka smarts, and so much more.